how I rejected my husband multiple times.
In the back of my head, I knew I'm gonna end up with her.
I'm excited for him to come, but I'm not gonna date him. I'm not gonna date him. I'm not gonna date him. I told you from the beginning, if you're moving to Toronto to be with me, don't move here. Do you remember I said that?
Do you still have feelings for me? And you're like, yeah, but I don't want to date. I want you to be in my life, but I just don't want to date. But I like you.
There's a constant battle between head and heart. Eran and I were dating long distance, and my parents knew nothing about this. Well, hey babes.
What's up?
It's Haley.
And Eran.
And welcome back to the Hey Babes podcast. Is there anything we usually say after this? I don't remember.
No, you just continue to talk while I just stand small.
All right. Listen, you guys, you know that the Hey Babes podcast often has a lot of dating advice and all of that kind of things because Eran and I, we've been through it when it comes to relationships. But from what I know from the past, not only do we prefer to share stories rather than tell you exactly what to do, we believe that through sharing experiences sometimes it can really teach you something, getting somebody else's perspective. So we thought that for today's podcast, it would be really fun to go ahead and kind of share all the details of how I rejected my husband multiple times.
You guys hear I'm complete silent because I'm like, yeah, this is all true. I just say,
Yeah, let's just say that Eran and I have definitely been through it. And right now, thank God, we are in 6 months of marriage. So I guess we could say we have
6 months?
6 years, sorry.
Oh my God.
We're in 6 years of marriage. So I guess you could say that we have a little bit of advice that we can offer. And we're specifically going to do a deep dive into the beginning stages, talking about how it was before we started dating, when we started dating, our experience with dating long distance, because we did do that, going through a breakup when we were long distance, getting back together, and how we kind of kept the relationship firing alive when we were dating in Canada. All of that is going to be covered today. And Eran is excited.
Very much so. Bringing back all the traumatic memories.
Just a little bit.
Okay, so as many of you guys know from our relationship, we obviously had like a rocky start into it. I mean,
you make it sound so bad.
No, it wasn't. No, in the
rocky.
beginning was fine. Beginning, we met. Haley came to Miami to my house, vacation with my cousin. Sparks started to fire up. We liked each other. She went back to Canada. We admitted we had feelings for each other. And then we started having a long distance relationship for the last few months.
Exactly. So basically, when I left Miami, Eran and I obviously admitted that we had feelings for one another and we wanted to pursue a relationship. If you guys really want to do or know the whole story, I think it's our first episode ever is talking about how we met, dated long distance, broke up, and got married. So you guys can go ahead and listen to our first episode ever. But bringing it back, we were at a point where Eran and I, like I said, admitted we have feelings for each other. But at this point, I was going back to Toronto. He was staying in Miami. And we never really established a relationship when I left. Yeah. But things started to fire up once I got back to Toronto.
Yeah. I think also on top of that, we were both in high school. I think it was our last year of high school. So it was our senior year. And so when you're at that age, you don't really think about long term. At least I wasn't. I wasn't really thinking about long term. I was thinking about in the moment. So in the moment, I wanted to be in a relationship with Haley. I wanted a girlfriend. And so that's why I was like, I'm out for long distance. I don't care, whatever. Because again, it was my first ever serious relationship. And the relationship was majority mentally and emotionally because all over long distance.
But when it comes to me, as I said in the past, I'm a very, very logical person. And I think Eran and I always bump heads when it comes to this because in many ways, I always think about, is this going to be a good thing for the long term? So I was literally like, okay, if I'm going to be dating this guy, I don't want to move to Miami. He doesn't want to move to Toronto. So how are we possibly going to be making this work? So at that point, it's when Eran and I came together. And I think in the moment when I said yes to a long distance relationship, I was also thinking in the moment it's going to be good until the real feelings started to come into play.
Yeah. And I think in the beginning, we were just reminiscing about one day we'll be able to I'll visit you, you'll visit me, and all this stuff will go on and whatever. And we were, again, only thinking about in the moment, more in the short term goals. And then as 1 month went by, 2 months went by, and we started realizing that all we can do is reminisce. Well, at least more on Haley's end, that all we're just doing is reminiscing. What's gonna happen when we graduate?
Exactly.
She's gonna go to university. I'm gonna go to university. Where's this gonna lead to?
So most people, when they like each other, they get into a relationship and they're like, okay, you know what? Let's have fun in the moment. But guys, honestly, long distance relationships, they're not fun.
Yeah, because all you really talk about is I can't wait to hug you. I can't wait to see you in person and everything.
I can't wait to do this together. I can't wait to go on these dates.
Yeah, and we weren't able to do any any of that because we were just in front of a screen.
Exactly. But on one hand, we did have some funny experiences. I wanted to share. Oh my God. If you guys don't know, my parents are like super, super old school. I think we're going to do a whole episode on like our Bukharian culture and like the mentality when it comes to like when you're dating before marriage and all of that kind of stuff. So Eran and I were dating long distance, and my parents knew nothing about this. Like, nothing. They knew that I met you, but they thought we were just friends. Like, they didn't know
They
that.
thought it was like an innocent like crush or whatever.
No, not even, babe.
Nothing?
They literally thought that you were just like, they did not know I had feelings for you. I don't even think that my dad ever wanted to think about his daughter liking a boy. Because
You mentioned, oh, there was a nice Bukharian Jewish boy in Miami that I met.
But they didn't think anything would like come of it, right? Because my parents were like, my sister, who was 7 years older than me, was not even married at this point, and I think they were like thinking about her relationship and like her getting to that stage of life that they were not even thinking about me. Because casually dating is not really something that like we do in our culture. It's kind of like when you're dating, it's for the intention that you may potentially marry somebody. Again, we honestly, Eran, we can do an entire episode just talking about
our culture doesn't really approve of dating just for fun, and if you do that, it's in secret. Nobody will know.
So we have a lot of funny stories to share with that. But one of the things is that Eran and I were dating long distance, and were we using Skype back then?
Back then we had Skype. I had an Android. Haley had an Android. On top of that, we only used Skype because Haley had no Wi-Fi.
Oh, that's
so
true.
That was even harder part of our relationship, that we were only able to communicate when she was connected to internet. So I would message her like, hey, what's going on? And no reply for 3 hours. And she's like, hey, just got Wi-Fi. What's up? And I'm like,
it's like talking to a wall.
Yeah, like I felt like it was like a delay.
Yeah, so every night we would have like, I wanted to say FaceTime, but we didn't use FaceTime back then. We had our Skype calls. And then it got to a point where Eran and I were literally talking on the computer constantly, and I think one time we were supposed to do like a Skype date or something, and then the Skype connected to the TV downstairs that my parents were literally watching a movie, and they clicked accept, and all of a sudden this face of a guy pops up on their screen, and my parents are just
gigantic screen, and I was so confused because I was supposed to see Haley, then I just see
my parents sitting on a couch,
and they're just like, and I see her down. Oh crap! I'm like, hi, what's up? And then
you hung up.
I hung up. I just like signed out right away.
I was so nervous. Oh my gosh. Moving on from that, they kind of like didn't play a big deal off of it. But anyway, Eran and I were doing these long distance dates, and I'll give you a little picture of what this was. It was literally us. Either we would like watch a movie together or a TV show together. We would like play the show at the same time. Remember?
We'd be like watch Vampire Diaries, because Haley tried to hook me onto like Vampire Diaries, One Tree Hill, all this stuff. So we like watched it at the same time, and like we had like a delay. So she's like, okay, I'm at 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Like, okay, me too. And then because it's a delay on Skype, we press it, and I'm like, oh wait, it's a second off.
Yeah, it was so funny. We would literally watch stuff like that together, and then we would just obviously like talk about, like we said, constantly talk about things that we would do if we were together. So how long would you say that aspect of a relationship was, the long distance part?
I think when did we? You came in March. We admitted that we had feelings for each other like towards that time, April, and then I believe like we were together for like 2 months long distance,
which honestly is a pretty long time. Talking to somebody every single day, just imagine how much you get to know a person, because like we said, you're really only working on that emotional connection because you're not physically seeing each other or touching each other or
and anything. I think one of the things I respected about Haley is that, again, she didn't have any Wi-Fi, so when we would talk, it would only be when she would be home. And obviously in a relationship, it's very easy to, when you meet somebody and everything's new and fresh, you just disconnect yourself from everything and just prioritize the relationship, you know? So I was willing to do that. Literally, I was ready to like drop everything and do whatever just to speak to Haley, because I wasn't able to communicate with her throughout the day. So whenever time I did have available, I was going to do it, especially, you know, you're in high school, all these feelings and whatever is all new to you. You just want to soak it up as much as you can. And Haley was always like, no, I have this thing. I have a friend. We have a bonfire, whatever. So she always, I guess, had a balance and didn't let our relationship take over, which in a way is good.
It didn't bother you?
It did bother the hell out of me, but at the same time, I respect it, because I'm like, listen, she still has her life. Like, she could do her own thing. If she wants to hang out with her friends, who am I to stop her?
Because I'll tell you what, I just feel like it is so important. And like, this is something we'll get into a little bit later too. But as you start your relationship, you want to make sure that you stay the same person throughout your entire relationship. So it's like, if I was constantly a social person who always made time for friends, made time for my family, that shouldn't change once you start dating a person,
sure.
you know? And it's totally acceptable that that would have bothered you, obviously, because like, let's admit, you didn't have friends. No, I'm just joking.
That's all lies.
You did not have as many friends.
Nah, I had friends. I also had Wi-Fi and I had
I
internet
know.
connection. Like, I would
You were
talk to
free
you.
all the time. That's the thing.
I was more freak, yeah, because my schedule was pretty simple. I would go to school, I'll go to work, I go to the gym, come
And
back
go
home,
talk
and
to Haley.
I'm free after 6, 7 o'clock. Like, where am I gonna go? And she's
Exactly.
like, I'm going to my friends. We're going to do this. We're gonna go to this plaza.
I'm a little bit nervous to get deeper into this podcast because it makes me realize just how much you've done for the relationship.
That's why I stay silent. Like, yes,
No,
yes.
no, but I don't
I've
mean
done my
it.
part.
Again, you guys will see while we talk about this that there's a constant battle between head and heart, you
Yeah.
know? My heart was obviously always in the relationship, but I felt like, especially in the beginning stages, my head would just always take over because I overthink everything. And even when me and Eran
Till
were
this
dating
day.
long distance, like, let's say he got to a point where like he would post a Snapchat with like some girl, like it would literally bother me, even though I knew that the guy liked me. Like I wasn't a jealous person, but it's like you're overthinking because especially when you're long distance, you're like, you don't know what's going on there. He could hide a whole relationship from me. And I
No, but
wouldn't even
long
know.
distance, it wasn't that. I don't think you ever had that.
I
Like,
didn't have
fear.
that about you. I think it's just like you obviously, when you're not physically next to somebody, you always have a little bit more doubt, you know?
No, I don't think for us it was that. I think it was more the fact that because I wasn't there physically and I wasn't there to like be at your friends events and I wasn't able to be at birthdays and whatever,
it. Mm-hmm.
like people around you, your friends had like boyfriend, girlfriends, and they would bring their friends to
I
the
think
dinner
I was
and I
just
wasn't there.
feeling lonely in that experience.
Yeah,
I
because
think
you would
that's
see
what it
other
was.
people and you're like, I want to have that. I want to be with this person and he's not physically here. It's very tough.
So, like we said, 2 months in, Eran and I are doing this like long distance dating. It was all cute and whatever. And I think at just some point I just started to realize, I mean, listen, if you're talking to somebody every single day, hours on end, like,
Yeah, for like 3-4 hours, like to like 2-3 in the morning, you know.
of course, you develop such strong feelings. And like my head was being so loud at that point that was like, Haley, what are you doing? Like, where is this going? You're not even 19 yet. Like, you guys are having this relationship, but like, he's not moving. You're not moving. Like, you're not planning on dropping your life, getting married right now. Like, what's the deal? And I started like thinking about this all the time. And something else that I learned about myself that you helped me learn, I'm not a confrontational person at all. When something bothers me, I just tend to avoid it instead of confront it head on. And I think slowly Eran started to realize that I was like slowly reeling away. I was like talking less, answering less, conversations got shorter, messages got like, some of them were left unread because I just like wanted to distance, but like I just didn't know how to do it, which honestly was not right on my end.
And I remember like the messages like I'm like, listen, is everything okay? She's like, I don't wanna hurt you. Like I wanna talk to you, but like I don't wanna say something that's gonna hurt you because I know where this is gonna lead. And I also knew in my head what was happening.
But I don't think you thought we were gonna break up.
No, I thought more of like I can convince you and persuade you to like.
Yeah, you were very
I'm
confident.
like, listen, like once I talk to her over the phone or whatever, I can save the relationship because again I had pure confidence that, like,
Okay, but can I
we're
ask
gonna
you
go
a question?
somewhere.
In your mind, when we were like dating long distance, what were you thinking? We were just gonna keep doing this for a few. Like,
Well,
what were you thinking?
Again, that's the thing.
You weren't. You were thinking in the moment.
I was thinking in the moment, but I knew at some point we'd get married. I just didn't know how we would get there. But I'm like, listen, we'll stick together. At some point, it was more of like, we'll figure out when we get there, but I know we're meant to be together.
But
That
I was the kind of person that's like, no, I need to figure it out now.
Yeah. Especially we were both like in high school. Like I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do yet. I didn't know what school I was going to go to yet. Everything was just so new. It was so like unsure of anything. And like, I wasn't even thinking about getting married at that time because we were so young,
Me neither. Remember, me and you had those conversations all the time, which I wanted to kind of point out. I think it's really good if I know I'm really also curious to know, you guys that are listening, if you're able to comment, if you're watching on the YouTube video, like what stage of life are you at? Are you dating? Are you already married? Are you single? Like I would really love to know because it kind of helps us like also navigate where these episodes are going. But hopefully even the ones that are married can relate to some of this conversation between us in a relationship. But I genuinely believe that especially when you're entering a relationship with somebody, that I don't know, you have to have like confidence and trust and like knowing where it's going to go. And both of you need to be on the same page. We've reiterated this many times already. Eran and I knew that we wanted to get married. Eran and I knew approximately how long that would be. We had that conversation that I said, until I finished school, I wasn't planning on getting married in the beginning.
That didn't happen.
That was like almost 4 years from the point that we were dating, which is kind of crazy to think, you know? But we also knew that we were waiting till marriage. We also knew like if we were going to be intimate or not intimate. Like, we knew the same
We
boundaries,
had all these boundaries ready to go right off the bat.
which I think is so
We
important.
just didn't know like where it was gonna navigate from there. I think that was
Exactly.
more the thing because Haley said like I was very more of the easygoing, like whatever you want, we'll do. 2 years, 5 years, whatever. I'm like whatever it'll take for us to be together. And Haley was like, listen, well, I only want to get married like after I finish school in 4 years and after I get a job and do all this stuff and
I
like.
sound very stubborn.
And I was like, okay, sure, yeah, okay. And then we broke up, and then lo and behold, we ended up getting married. I had no job. You were still in school.
I mean,
we were
we're
married.
jumping forward a little
You
bit,
know what I'm
but
saying?
let's say at a point that me and you like decided, not even decided, we had that conversation. That's kind of when, it makes me so sad to think that I broke your heart at some point. And I did, apparently.
Yeah, I was depressed. I
Eran
remember
was
that.
sad,
Oh, I was
like-
so. I remember that was like the first time I cried that night. Oh my god.
What?
Yeah, of course. I cried that
I
night.
knew
You
you were
broke up.
sad, but like,
I was sad because like again, it was my first ever serious relationship, and I felt very very attached to it. And I'm like,
this is gonna be
listen,
my wife.
finally,
You also knew that.
I God put somebody in my life that I connect to so well. I feel like we're very really similar, and then we can't be together due to obstacles that are
Out of
beyond our control.
Yeah.
And so I took it very hard, and I remember like I just was like very depressed for like those last few weeks, and then especially I'm like, okay, listen, at least we'll still be able to talk every day and whatever. And like in the beginning, it was like that. We still kept in touch. We still like Skyped here and there.
But it was just, honestly, it was getting hard. It was getting so hard for me because something that Eran told me from the beginning, even when we broke up, and it was an experience I didn't have with people I would talk to in the past. I never had like a real boyfriend before Eran, but I did have like guys that I was talking to. I'm a Gemini. I was a flirt, okay? And a lot of these guys would just say like, if I told them that I don't want to have a relationship, because again, if I saw red flags in somebody and I knew that they weren't somebody I was going to end up with, I would just cut it off there and then. And what I realized in that moment when I told guys like, listen, like I'd love to stay friends, I just don't really see us like taking that, like getting serious. Most of the guys would just say like, okay, like I have enough friends and like bye, you know?
Yeah.
And that really hurt me because I was just like, if you really like a person, you would just want them to be in your life genuinely regardless. And I think Eran said this with intention, knowing that we'd be serious again at some point, but he did tell me after we broke up long distance, I'd rather have you in my life as a friend than not have you in my life at all. And I really feel like that was something that sparked something in me, and I was just like, wow, he genuinely like wants me as a person in his life, even though in a way I broke your heart in that moment.
Yeah, but keep in mind, guys, in the back of my
You're playing a
head,
game.
I knew, like, we both knew that it wasn't like we'll just remain friends and that's it. Like, again, we're being straight up honest.
But
Like,
can I be real? I kind of did, because in that moment, I didn't think that you were gonna move. So I just genuinely, like, that's the thing. If you ever told me that you were open to moving to Canada, I think I would have held on to that hope. But
No,
because you
Ken.
never made that clear, because obviously why would you?
No, I know, but at
You
the
know?
same time, like, I still had feelings for it in my head. I'm like, okay, we'll just be friends, but I'm in Miami, you're in Canada, so what else am I gonna say? Don't talk to anymore?
Of course.
You get what I'm saying?
Of
But
course. Some
at
guys
the-
would.
But at
Hey.
the end of the day, even if a guy does say that, there's obviously a motive behind it. Like, I'm not gonna. I don't want to get to
I
the
get
thing
it.
of
You
saying
would cut it off if you don't care to have
like
someone
if,
in your life.
like those guys
seriously.
that they say, listen, like, I don't need any friends. I don't want to be. I get them because like I want a relationship. You don't want to be in a relationship.
Yeah, I do.
Alright,
I do
peace.
get it. I do get
In
it.
my head, I'm like, I still think there's going to be something there, and I know Haley as a person is like, I want to see how long you're gonna stick around for, and how much of a punch you're gonna take.
That makes
and
me
then-
sound awful.
No, again, because you're a very like
Gated,
paranoid,
yeah.
gated person, and
My
you were
walls are up, yeah.
and you're very much like oh, you see, he's just like everybody else, and I knew that. So I'm like, listen, I'd rather have you in my life than nothing. And I was honest, I was truthful, but in the back of my head, whether I knew it or not, I knew I'm gonna end up with her. So that's why I was like, for sure, I need to keep that connection
Yeah.
there
This
somehow.
is just the start of how Eran won the dating game, because
Yeah.
this guy has put a lot into this relationship.
Yeah.
And let me just say, I got a special one. I'm serious.
Yeah,
So
you did.
moving on to it, Eran and I, after we kind of stayed friends for a little while, and we were starting to talk about the fact that we were, I still had no Wi-Fi. So even talking to him already was hard enough as it is. But logically, because in my mind, I was like, okay, yes, we broke up. And like you said, we could be friends, but it's like, how far can this friendship go if we're far from each other? Slowly, we just like, it's more my fault. I stopped talking to him as much. I stopped messaging back as much. The voice notes were like much shorter, And I think that I just felt like I needed a little bit of space.
Yeah, it was. Listen,
you
you
know?
needed space to be able to
To
like
heal a little.
to
And like,
heal, and again, it's not healthy to continue to communicate even though we're no longer together anymore. And
it
like,
just didn't make sense in that moment. I'm like,
yeah,
I like this guy so much, but I'm still talking to him every day.
it's not good. Again, it's not good logic on that, and I completely understood that. You know, and once I made the announcement that I was moving to Canada, that's when things kind of shifted in a way, right? Again, subconsciously, I knew that we're gonna be together, but at the same time, from point of view of somebody who just graduated, I'm like, listen, I want to go to school to be a trainer, open up a gym. You know, I don't want to live in. I don't want to go to in school in Miami. I'm like, worst case, I'll go to school in Canada.
This is to refresh your memory. The reason Eran came to this decision is because in that moment that we were like broken up, but we were still friends, he decided to come surprise us in Toronto, like me and my friend. So when he arrived to Toronto, he like genuinely had a great experience. We introduced him to
I
a
liked
lot
it
of
was
our
like
friends,
very
you know.
at the time. I liked it. It was really quiet. It was very spatial. I liked that there was seasons. I just liked that like in the summertime, everybody like goes outside and they connect.
We
It's
introduced you to
very
our
good.
friends.
Yeah,
Remember?
I got close to your friends and like it was a good vibe. And it was again, it was a change of scenery because I grew up in Miami, Florida, and I really didn't go anywhere else after that. So I went to a completely new country and experienced a new environment. I'm like, I want a taste of that change.
Exactly. So I think that in that moment when Eran made the decision to move to Toronto, you yourself felt like you really loved it. And this is where the lie of the century comes in. The fact that
What lie of the century? Babe, you had lie of
the
the century.
fact that everybody, I know that you were just saying this because you didn't want to scare me. I told you from the beginning, if you're moving to Toronto to be with me, don't move here. Do you remember I said that?
I know, and I didn't go just
Right.
for you.
But so you told the entire world, including my
And I said,
family
yeah,
and
I'm not
everyone.
there for you.
You said I'm not there for you. I'm just here because I'm in school. I
And
like the
technically, in a
seasons.
way, and technically, I wasn't lying. It was the truth.
Even
I
though you dropped out after
I
one
went,
semester.
Yeah, after we were already getting married, so I already dropped out.
Exactly.
Exactly, because the new plan occurred. But the other plan was, okay, listen, I'll go there for school. I'll try it out. I'll make some friends. Or the worst case doesn't work out, at least I can say I went to Canada for a year and I moved back.
Can I just say how much I admire how fearless you were to do that?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Because,
Back
oh
at
my
that time, I
God.
realized that like God made it so naive for me. Like I literally thought, okay, I'll move there. I'll get an apartment. I'll work at a gym, make some money. You know, this
thought it
and
was
that.
so
At least I
simple.
thought it was really simple. I'll move to a place. I have some family there. I'll be good or whatever. And it wasn't that easy. I think like moving to a new country and like being the type of person that I wanted to make it on my own without having any type of help and trying to do everything on my own, it wasn't as easy as I thought. I had to go through so many jobs. At some point, I was like unemployed for like a year, and I was just taking on any job that I could, and like,
Which honestly, though, I will say showed a lot to me also.
Yeah.
Which is definitely something I want to talk about with like Bukharian culture and stuff too. At some point, my parents always like. My parents are very different than most parents. I would say a lot of Bukharian parents obviously want to make sure that their daughter is married off to somebody who's like makes good money and like stuff
I
like
think
that.
I don't think that's. I think many
They just want
families
to know
in
that
general.
their daughters are okay and
Yeah, but I don't
taken
think
care
it's
of.
Bukhari. I think in general, like any parents want to make sure like that the relationship that you're in, like you guys will not be struggling financially or anything like that. You know.
So something I admired about my parents is that they saw Eran's drive to work, that take every job, and like that is actually. Want to hear something funny, babe? That's actually something that my father told my grandfather when my grandfather sat my dad down and told him like, "How are you gonna take care of my daughter? What are your intentions?" My dad answered him, "I don't promise her gold and golden houses and all this jewelry and stuff, but we will definitely have enough to live a very happy life." And I think him saying that just went to show like take any job you can get. And I think I saw a lot of that in you, which really made me like it was such a turn on in a way because I was just like, oh my gosh, this guy is really like not scared of hard work, not scared to like put himself out there. The fact that you picked up and moved to a whole other country, like being an overthinker, I'm terrified to do something like
Yeah.
that. That's why in my head moving to Miami was not even like an option.
Yeah,
you
but I
know?
think at that point it was because I was so focused on our relationship and I was focused on like I'm doing whatever it takes. It's like
to get to the
like
end
how would I
goal.
say I was. It sounds cheesy, but I was like blinded by love or something. Like I was just like, I'm in this relationship. It's okay. I'll just work whatever. I'm doing whatever I can to make this relationship flourish. So I would just take on any job and whatever because I was so involved into this that I wanted to
Make
be
it
together,
happen.
make it happen. Exactly.
So the way that I told Eran, like I told you guys, I was like, listen, if you're moving here for me, don't move here. And it wasn't in a sense of like, I don't want you here. It was more in a sense of, I would never want the responsibility that somebody uprooted his life and moved somewhere for me. And like, what if it doesn't work out? You know, like that would literally play on my conscience forever. So Eran ended up coming, and I think at that point, how long has it been? About a couple weeks that you came. It was almost a month.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Like before that Haley came to visit in Miami, that's when I guess it kind of like
Oh yeah. Let me actually explain that. I decided, like my mom, my sisters, and I decided to do a girls trip to Miami. So we went there, but at this point, we already knew that Eran was moving to
Yeah.
Canada. So I think a little like window was open in my mind, being like, okay, Haley, there's no reason to close this off because this guy will be in Canada.
Yeah, because like I applied for the school, I applied for the visa, and that like right before she came, I got approved for the visa and I got approved for the school.
And I
even
was
though it
like-
wasn't a hard school to get into
I know.
Seneca, like
But I was like, wow, this is actually happening.
yeah, and then I'm like, yeah, except so I'm actually going, and I think
Yeah.
also my parents were also surprised. They thought I was gonna like back out last minute. I'm like, yeah, I'm actually going,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, what the hell?
And then I'll tell you something that won me over on that trip. I actually ended up, the Canadian that I am, I actually ended up getting sun poisoning. So we were outside at the beach one day. It was like super cloudy. And then I ended up getting like a sunburn without even realizing because it was cloudy. But I got like a rash all over my skin. I got a fever. I had chills and I was not feeling well. So
I was bummed out too because I'm like, dang,
I wanted to do
Haley's
fun
coming.
stuff, yeah.
We're gonna hang out 1 week. I haven't seen her in months. Like, we're gonna rekindle the thing. I have her like to myself because she came with her family, this and that. I can impress them. And then one day in, she got
Yeah.
sun poisoning.
But I'll tell you what you did win me over.
Yeah.
You guys know, you want to hear what he did? You want to hear what this guy did?
I could write a
So
book, guys.
he knew that I wasn't feeling well. And listen, I told my family, I'm like, guys, I'll be fine. Go out, still go to the beach, enjoy your time here. We're Canadian. We have to take whatever good weather we can get. So knowing that I was going to be in the apartment, like on my own, Eran literally came. He knew I loved Aquafina water. He bought my favorite huge gallons of water because he knew I had to be hydrated. He got my favorite candy. He brought a laptop with a bunch of episodes downloaded from Vampire Diaries because he knew that like we'd want to watch a show together.
But we
And,
couldn't
like,
because you're.
We'll
we're not
get into
there.
that, yeah. But literally, the fact that he did that was just like, it was so thoughtful. It was so thoughtful, and he just like, I don't know. In a way, this is kind of like advice because if anyone is like listening out there, it's like literally such minimal things. It's attention to detail. The fact that like he knew what water I liked, and he knew that like a sweet treat would make me feel better, and he knows that one of my love languages is quality of time. So like that would have been amazing. The thing that made it not happen is that my sister, who is probably the most religious out of all of us in the family, was just like, this is really sweet, but we're not gonna let you stay in an apartment by yourself with
No,
a
but
guy.
that's not what I did.
I
babe.
know. So
No.
so how did it happen?
Babe, this is what happened. You forgot everything. The sun poison got to you. What ended up happening was that I dropped it off to you when your family was there. I came like here, I dropped it off, and
Respectfully.
then respectfully, and I said hi, everything okay, good, okay, and I left. That's the thing. There was a boundary that you have to do, and this is like I guess where, as a guy, there are certain limits and boundaries, and you have to kind of
Respect the family.
respect the family, respect the room, and like not,
Push it.
go past the boundary. And I knew I'm like, listen, she's not feeling well. Her family's gonna leave. It's not gonna be right. Like I'm gonna stick around or whatever, because then it shows to your family and to you that like there's a motive. Like, oh, he did this just to be around, and it doesn't look good. So I
Yeah.
literally came, and they were like, oh, you can stick around. I'm like, no, I'm just here to drop this off, make sure she's okay. I'm gonna leave, but have fun, and that's it. And they were really like, oh wow, that's so nice of me. Just
Yeah.
literally just came for
You're
that.
right. You're
you know
right.
what I'm saying?
You're right. Sorry that I made you look bad for a
See,
second.
oh my gosh, man, what I'm gonna do?
So that was pretty much turned the crack into a full blown.
Until this day, your mom was like, "Oh, remember the first time he came? He took us around. I drove you guys them around
You
to
did
the
a lot.
beach.
You
This,
really,
that."
really did a lot. But genuinely, you did enjoy your
No,
time
I
with us
did. I
too.
wanted to. I genuinely wanted to. Especially like I wanted to impress your family. I wanted to give like a good representation of myself because I was also the first time I met them.
That's true. You never met my mom before. So after that, Eran and I were definitely rekindled, I want to say. And I was very excited for him to come. I was really excited for him to come. But in the back of my mind, me being the stubborn person I am, I'm like, I'm excited for him to come, but I'm not going to date him. I'm not going to date him. I'm not going to date him. And I think it was just because, again, I was just like, timeline, Haley, stick to your timeline, which is so stupid. Like, honestly.
We have no timeline now.
We have no timeline. Like, really, like, life does not need a timeline. If the right person comes into your life and you feel like you have a plan that it makes sense for you guys to be together, like you don't need to stick to a timeline. I'm not saying when you're 12, but like, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
when you're of reasonable age, you know what you want to do with your life. Like just because you didn't finish school doesn't mean you shouldn't be together. Just because you don't have a stable job yet doesn't mean you can't somehow figure it out financially. Like really, we are a walking, talking example of that being true. And going forward, Eran actually ended up in Canada a couple months later. And it didn't even take a few weeks for me to be like, Haley, why aren't you dating this guy? So we're going to move into Eran finally moving to Canada and how the relationship progressed, because it progressed really, really quickly. The thing that kind of turned it
With
all
some
around,
hiccups though.
just a few.
This is where this is like we said, after Haley came with her family, that's when this game started to play.
I know. It was a game.
And I think that's in general, when you're dating, as much as people would say, like, it might not be the case for everybody. In our situation, it's like this. And for many other experiences that I've heard from our friends and people around our circle, there's always a game to be played when it comes to dating.
A game is a part of it.
It's a part of it. And you play the game, but respectfully. You know, there's always going to be where you're going to like not message right away. You're going to wait a little bit. You're not going to make yourself available all the time. And like, that's when I realized like I need to play this game. Before, when we're doing long distance, I made myself available all the time. And like, it didn't work. And I started seeing that she was always busy with friends and everything. So I'm like, I need to do the same thing.
It wasn't even like subconsciously I was like, oh my God, he's messaging me right away. Ew. Like, it wasn't even that. It was just more of like you said, I was out having a life.
Yeah, and I need to do the same.
You needed to do the same.
So like, I didn't make myself available every time. And that's the thing. When I moved to Canada, Haley had this like tug of war, like you said, with your heart and with your head, and you didn't know what to follow. And at some point, she's like, "Oh my God, like you're finally gonna be in my life. Like you're gonna be physically here. Like that's crazy, you know." And I, at the same time, I couldn't be like, "Yeah, so we can date." Like I had to like.
Honestly, if you said that, I would have cringed.
I know you would be like, "Oh, you see, that's what it is." So I had to be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be in your life and whatever." And like I had to keep playing the game. Like, listen. Don't do anything. If it's meant something's gonna happen, it will happen. If not, let it be. Because I know the more I push, the more I initiated anything, the more she took I took one step forward, she'll take 2 steps back.
So let me ask you a question. Where for you was like the fine line? Why are you smiling?
Because I'm like, I don't know what to say.
Where for you was like the fine line between where you know that you can play a game to the point that like it's not rude, it's not too much, or it's not like stepping on toes, because you were trying in the relationship, but you were like did it like beautifully. I don't know how to explain it.
Everybody in her family, even her aunt, would be like, Eran, and he were like, ooh, he came in like sneaky out of nowhere, and this and
And
that.
he got the girl that everybody
And
was
nobody
trying.
even knew. It was like in secret, you know, it was my diabolical plan. Everyone's like, you did it for the papers.
Yeah,
you
for the
know?
Canadian papers,
Yeah,
even though we
yeah.
live in Miami now.
Exactly. And I think the way you can, I guess, see when you can kind of like, when it's kind of like I'm pushing it for something good, and when I have to like kind of take a step back and like give that boundary, not pass it, is when we broke up long distance. That's when I felt like, okay, listen, she literally doesn't want to have this because it's causing her pain. And you straight up told me, I don't want to keep doing this anymore because it's hurting me. When I moved to Canada, in my head, I'm like, okay, this problem before was distance. Okay, I'm here now. I know what I want to do in my life. We can do all this stuff, whatever. What's the problem? And you were still hesitant, but I knew you still had feelings for me. That's why you told me, I'm like, wait, do you still have feelings for me? And you're like, yeah, but I don't want to date. I'm like, huh, okay. So
The wheels
do you
started
not want to
turning.
talk to me? No. I want you to be in my life, but I just don't want to date. But I like you. So I'm like, okay, no problem.
Guys, I feel like you're gonna all
We'll
hate
play
me
this
now.
game. I can play, you know.
Everyone is gonna be an Eran fan right
I
now.
know. Eran's corner is in.
That's it. I sound terrible.
No, but again,
it
I
was head
understand.
versus heart, honestly.
But that's the thing. When you're in a relationship and you're doing this stuff, there will be a game to be played. And I think that you have to do it, especially in the guy's end, right? And like that game that was played, after we, thank God, finally made it official, there were no more games after that. And that's what thing that we made very clear.
Yeah.
When you're dating, there can be games to be played. I'm not saying now you should start dating multiple people, God
No,
forbid,
we
and
never.
do whatever.
That was a boundary that we.
Exactly.
That's not respectful.
But
you
like
know?
we were like I remember at some point for the first month or two that I was there, everybody again was getting involved in our things, our friends, our family. Like, why don't you go with them? And they would talk to me, and then I'll tell my point of view, and then they would go to her, and then she'll tell her point of view, and then they would come back to me, and this is how she feels and whatever. And it was like, I felt like everybody was involved. Everyone was like,
because everyone was rooting for us, babe.
it's kind of like in a movie, you know, like, when are they gonna get together already?
Yeah,
you know, it's like one of those. And I think at some point, I'm like, listen, I'm not going to push because I did that before and I got rejected. So I'm going to play the game. So at some point, we would meet with friends or whatever. And I remember I would strategically do this. Like, if we go to a plaza, I would say hi to everybody a little bit. She would either be the last one or the middle one. If I said hi to her first, it'll be like, oh, you know, he came to me because this. But if I went to say hi to someone else, she's like, why isn't he coming to me? You know, like,
I mean, guys, honestly, this sounds so dumb, but like as an 18, 19-year-old girl,
it makes sense.
It's truly what was going on
if
in
I
my
was saying
mind.
hi to her friend and she's like, she'll be like, doesn't he have feelings for me? Why is
like
he
as
talking to her?
27, 28-year-olds now, I'm
We're like, what
okay.
the hell's BS? Like, just
But
say
listen,
this.
we were in high school, okay? We're just
Yeah.
being real with you. Again, we're not offering advice. We're just straight up saying our experience.
What happened with us, yeah. And at some point, I remember, like, I didn't want to make myself available all the time. So at some point, like, I remember I was working, we would meeting with friends here and there all the time, and at some point I'm like, I saw her too many times this week, I need to create some space. Like, I don't really feel like going out tonight, like whatever. And I remember, you know, my cousin and you were like, yo, let's go out, let's go hang out here. And I'm like, no, not today, I have work, I'm going, like, I have to wake up early. I'm gonna head to bed. And then something happened, and then I ended up coming because it was like, I thought there was an emergency, and I came, and you guys were like, okay, when are we gonna hang out? And I'm like, I told you guys I don't want to hang out. Like, I'm gonna stay in.
Yeah. And
like, oh, but you're already out. Like, come on, let's go. Like, no, I don't want to go out. You guys can go out, hang out with your friends. I'm going home.
See
and then afterwards, Haley was just like, listen, like, you can hang out. Like, it's okay. Like, I know we kind of played a little bit of trick, but like, you know, you can stay. And I'm like, no, Haley, like, it's all good. Hang out with your friends. It's all good. I'm going. And then Haley was like, dang, he's not even staying for me. So I remember literally that next day, she messaged me. She's like, hey, would you be down to go out and get some ice cream? And I'm like, with everybody? She's like, no, just you. And I'm like, all right.
Okay.
See?
Dang.
And I knew, like, okay, I already know where it's going.
You knew the Haley's Corner book. You knew the Haley's Corner way.
Yeah, I knew that I had to make space, show that I'm not interested, and I'm like, I'm not gonna just follow you.
But
And then
again,
you
guys,
came.
we have to reiterate, all of this is done respectfully. He
Yeah.
never said, I don't want to spend time with you. He never pretended to be into someone else. Like, that is already pushing the boundary.
Yeah.
But I think it keeps things spicy.
Exactly.
You know?
It kept things spicy, it kept things like more fresh, and it kept like having, again, at the end of the day, anybody, especially Haley and a lot of women and guys too, want something that they can't have. Right? I had to make myself that you can't have me. Therefore, she wanted to be with me even more. You know, when I made myself available.
And you know how this all started? Because the first time I ever met him, he didn't speak to me for the first 3 days that I was in Miami. And I was like, I wasn't like, why isn't he into me? But I'm like, why isn't he even interested in talking to me?
It's
you know?
the game to be
No, then
played.
it wasn't a game.
It was half-half.
Okay.
That was my game.
Now it's half-half.
No. But either way, it's like
I'll
that.
tell you guys how it got to that next step. But once Eran was already in Canada, I know this is a long story, but there was a lot of games to be played. Once Eran was already in Canada, at that point, I was like, okay, like this guy's obviously here, but I still didn't take that next step. What I think pushed it over the edge is that Eran, this is where the consideration comes in. Knowing your partner and understanding how to make them happy in a way without even them knowing what's going to make them happy. Eran knew that I've always been, in a way, a humble person, even though, like, I put myself out on a YouTube channel and stuff, but I don't really, like, think much of myself. When it came to my birthday, for example, I never cared to, like, celebrate it for myself because I just didn't want it. I didn't want to make a spectacle of myself, if that made sense. And Eran just knew that, like, obviously friends were important to me, and he also knew that it's not something I would ever plan for myself. So him, along with my two other friends, Jasmine and Nicole, decided to plan a surprise birthday party for me, which was literally, I think it was my 19th birthday party.
Yeah.
And basically, like, I ended up coming to a restaurant. It was filled with so many of my friends, and they made like a huge card that everybody signed. And like, Eran was a very, very big part in planning that. I think it was your idea.
Yeah, it was my idea. I called everybody, all our friends, and like, as I'm like, I'm like, please come. And like, a lot of people also knew that like coming for Haley's birthday was also for me
So
to
they're
be
like,
on her
for
good
Eran.
side.
So he's like, for
They're like,
Eran, we'll
oh,
do
we gotta
it.
come for Eran because like if we come and it's a success, like maybe we should give him a
I
chance.
love how many people were rooting for
Again,
our
a lot of
relationship.
people, because again, it wasn't like our relationship for me at least was like
Obvious.
it's such an obvious thing.
Like, it had to happen.
Everybody that at some point people were like, "Are you guys siblings?" And then we're like, "No, why?" And they're like, "Because like you guys just have this connection, like as if you guys knew each other for years."
Mm-hmm.
You know that's how sure we were of each other, and like that's
Exactly.
why I was
And
willing to
everybody
do anything
saw it.
for it.
And
Yeah.
everybody saw it, and everybody wanted it to happen already.
Yeah.
So they all wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah,
It's
so
so cute.
everybody we had like 30, and then I remember Haley loved dancing, so I chose the only place in Toronto that
A
had like
salsa lounge.
a salsa night, and it was like only on a Tuesday, and thank God her birthday was on midnight, so or it was a Thursday,
Yeah,
something like that.
It was midnight.
It was like
perfect.
midnight, so it was perfect, and I told everybody to come, and like in the beginning just a dinner, and then they open up after like 8:30 like salsa, so I was okay, I'll dance with her.
Even
and,
though
like,
he can't
people
dance for his life,
know,
he
not at
was
all.
willing to do that
I
for
tried
me.
to learn some salsa a little bit, and then like we danced, and like I remember like you had a blast. So many of your friends were there, and
First time getting drunk.
nah, you didn't get drunk. You
It
drank a
was
little
it was
bit.
my
Yeah.
legal age.
Yeah,
that's
you
why.
really did technically.
But it was fun.
Yeah, fun fact: legal age in Canada is 19 to drink.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, we hit it. We did that, and it was a great time. And I think you liked it because again, it was your first ever party. And I think
Yeah.
for you, you were just like, wow, like after everything I put this guy through, and after everything that's went on, he still went out of his way to do it.
I think you know what it is, babe. I think through that night, you showed me that it makes more sense to listen to your heart
Yeah.
instead of your head. And I think that's where the scale kind of like tipped over. And literally in that moment, I was just like, okay, Haley, you're just being dumb. This guy's here. He's clearly willing to fight. In the back of my mind, I just always thought he's going to be in Canada temporarily. He's here temporarily. That's the one thing that was stopping me from still dating him. But at that point, I'm like, okay, if he's willing to do all of this, you can put yourself through the possible heartache if he's ever going to go back. Do you know what I'm saying? So like at that point, Eran and I went on our official first date. We made it official. And can I just say, as much as it seems like we had so many games playing up to the relationship, once Eran and I made it official, it's like we knew that we were not going to
No
break
more
up
games.
again.
There wasn't
No
any more of
games,
this
you know?
like, okay, I'm gonna message. She messaged me first. I'm gonna wait 10 minutes to respond, so it doesn't seem like I'm desperate. And they're like, once we were dating, that's it. It was like, I'm your boy. I'm your girl. I'm your boyfriend. You're my girlfriend. Like it's official. Like that's it. There was no more of like, oh, I'm not
What
gonna
if
message him. Oh, I'm
this,
seeing him
that?
too much. Blah blah
We
blah.
never had jealousy
You know?
at that point. We
Obviously,
never
at that
had,
point when we were dating, we still had our own lives, and I think that's what the first breakup taught us. Is that, well, it taught me mostly is that we need to have our own lives, and like if we see each other regularly, it's because we want to, but we had to like kind of grow into it, and we still had our own thing. I did my own thing. She did her own thing. She still had her friends. I still had my friends, but we were together.
Yeah, we still kept date nights really, really fun. And I think that's kind of like a few steps that I wanted to tell you guys that we did in keeping our actual relationship alive while we were dating. Eran and I like always planned like cute things for each other to do, surrounding things that we just enjoyed. So for example, he showed me all of his favorite movies. I showed him all of mine. He would cook me dinner, even though he's a terrible cook, but he knew that I
I'm
love
not a
food.
terrible cook, but
The pasta was overboiled, the salmon was burnt, but it was,
you liked it still.
of course, because you made it for me. Of course I'm gonna like it no matter what, my love.
You finished the plate. Still have pictures.
Because Haley never says no to
That's
food.
true. That's our common love, is that we love food.
I know.
So we were just going on different
that was too.
restaurants.
We didn't keep kosher back then, so we would literally go to like all these like taco places, sushi places, and like
All you
we
can
just
eat sushi.
bonded.
Oh, that's the best.
Yeah, I know. Every time we bring it up, we literally reminisce and how much
I
we miss
know.
it.
Yeah.
But Eran and I, we just tried like to keep. You know what it is? We try to keep speaking each other's language of love. And you guys have probably heard about it. I'm going to quickly reiterate. Languages of love is basically how a person communicates or shows their love to somebody else. So you've got physical touch, which everybody knows and most people like. You've got words of affirmation. It's basically when you're kind of praising someone, saying thank you, speaking on qualities, like, you know, reassuring them with words. You've got quality time, which is pretty simple, spending time together. You've got gifts, which is, you know, somebody giving you something, you giving somebody else something. And then the last one is acts of service, when somebody actually does something for you. And that's either how you perceive love or how you receive love. So I want to say that my top one is definitely words of affirmation. It's very important to me that somebody recognizes when I do something for them. It makes me want to do something more. So if I was to like wash dishes, even though like it's a given that I have to do it, if he says thank you or like thanks babe, I appreciate it, like it just makes me want to do it even more. I don't know how to explain
No,
it.
no, no. Yeah, I
What
get
would you
you mean.
say is your like number one? Because I feel like it's changed over the years,
Making
but
me food,
I
probably.
know if that was an actual love language, it would both be ours.
I know. I
Getting
think
you buying me food and me making you
no. I
food.
think for me is acts of kindness. I think for me is like quality time is very
Quality time was a
important.
big back then for sure. Was quality
Back then,
time?
no,
Was our
even
biggest
now is
one.
also a big
But
thing.
we just spend time together all the time
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
So
Especially with
it's
our,
not
we both
lacking.
work from home in general, and we both like at some point work together. So we always had that quality time together. But I think for us, like you said, the best thing is that we both know what each other's love language is.
And you have to speak in the other person's
Yeah.
love language. So just because I love getting gifts, let's say, even though that's like my lowest on the 5, if I was someone who loves getting gifts, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person you're with is going to love giving you gifts unless they're learning to speak your language. So for Eran, my top love language is actually his hardest. I think it's because like in your home, your mom did so much, but she never expected like thank yous and stuff from the family.
Yeah. I mean, we
And
did say thank you,
of
but like
course, but
not.
it wasn't like
Yeah.
like my parents know that I need it, so they always like say thank you, I appreciate you, I love you, all these things. And I think with you, it took you a little while to learn.
No,
that
I
that was
do say
important.
thank you. I do show I'm
Yeah,
grateful.
yeah.
Just for certain things, like if Haley will make me,
I know
Haley will
exactly
make
what
me,
you're gonna say.
Haley gonna make me food, right? She makes me a pita sandwich or something, right? I take a bite. Now
And I'm like
I'm
staring at him.
in my head. I'm hungry. I want to eat, so I'm like taking a few bites. Whatever, you know. Halfway through, like, oh, it's good. When you go to a restaurant, the waiter comes and he says, "How's your food?" He doesn't say like the first bite. How's it?
No,
That's
so
good.
that's the thing. He takes a bite, and I'm like staring at him like
And then
this,
she's
waiting
and
for him
then-
to
and
be
I'm
like,
like,
"It's great, babe. Thank you."
Yeah, everything okay? She's like, and I'm like, what? And she's like, thank you. I'm like, oh yeah, thank you, babe. It's good.
Great.
It's good. Now I know it. Before I even bite it, thank you, babe.
And
She's
it pisses me
you didn't
off.
even eat it. I'm like, it's okay. I ate it in my mind already. You know,
Yeah.
and I take a bite and it's
So
good.
I think that we are like obviously like working on every aspect
Yeah.
of each other's like love language, and I think that that's the best way to keep a relationship alive. Like it's really really good to do something for your partner in a way that they appreciate it, you know?
And you also have to understand that as a partner, if like Haley's love language, let's say for example, is quality time, and that might not be, let's say, my love language, but because it's hers, she's giving that to me. I have to understand like this is her way of showing that she loves, like that she cares about me, right? I can't be like, why can't you be like this? Because that's how she wants to receive it. Therefore, sometimes that's how she'll give it. So you have to also understand in that sense of like what the other person wants to receive as a love language, and at the same time, if they dish it out the same way, you have to appreciate it's coming from a good place. So at the same time, as long as you, I guess, are transparent with each other to let each other know, like, hey, this and this and that, what you learn over time, I think it'll definitely help the relationship flourish.
And I really, really think that as long as you are putting into making the other person become the best person that they can be,
Yeah.
as long as that's what you're working forward in a relationship, then that's the best. If you guys want to hear, like, as we were dating, kind of how that relationship, like things that we did and all of that kind of stuff, we could definitely do a future podcast on that. I really wanted to focus today on like the history, on how we got to the point that we strengthened our relationship, because I think one of the best things, babe, is that once we got together officially, like, I don't think I've ever been more confident about anything ever, knowing that we were going to go the long haul. Like, we were not breaking up, we were not cheating on each other, God forbid. Like, we knew that
And
we
I think
were
it's because there were so many like boundaries and like gates to
and tests,
overcome and tests that was within the relationship, that once they were all like pass,
it
and when
solidified
we're together,
it.
they were like, that's it. And we both knew like, listen, no more games, no more like this and that. Like, we're together, we're gonna be honest with each other, we're gonna be legit, this and that, and we'll be good. Because like leading up to it, yes, there was a lot of like, yes, no, maybe, yes, I don't know, blah blah blah.
You literally summed it up perfectly. I think our whole beginning was the battle between your heart and your head. And if there's any advice that I can offer you guys, if you are either in a relationship and you don't really know where it's going, I strongly, strongly urge you to really just like look at your partner. Is this really somebody that you see yourself building a life with? If your answer off the bat is no, for whatever reason, whether it be distance, whether it be, you know, they don't want kids or you want kids or whatever it may be, like, follow your head at that point, you know? I think it's really, really important to follow your heart to an extent. Just because you love somebody, but you already know that it's not going to work. And for me, it's not like I didn't know it was going to work. It just didn't seem to make sense in the moment,
Yeah.
but I knew ultimately that it could. So I think that it's just in high school, I saw so many relationships. So many people were in relationships with people that it's like they were trying to make it work in the moment without thinking to the future. So literally in the battle of your head and your heart, I want to say follow your heart to an extent. If something is a concrete no, like this is not going to work for whatever reason, he already cheated on me and broke my trust, he already mistreated me, or she did something behind my back, or she doesn't respect my love languages, or like she doesn't put in an effort, whatever it may be, because it could be on both sides. At that point, follow your head, you
Yeah.
know, because it's going to save your heart in the long run.
Yeah, and I think in general, like if you ever do endure some sort of heartbreak or breakup or whatever, it's very easy to, I guess, go to like the dark side or like do
That's true.
things that you wouldn't necessarily would have done if you were in the relationship. Like
Yeah.
it was very easy. Like after everything that I went through with
After
Haley,
that first long distance breakup, you
Yeah.
could have very easily have
just
just
been
been
like, screw this, I'm gonna go and like do a bunch of dumb things and
Party.
have it be justified because
Yeah.
my heart is broken and blame it on him. Like this is all it's because of you. If you didn't break my heart, I wouldn't do all this stuff.
And let me just say, if you did go on a rampage,
Yeah, it would have changed your perspective.
it would have
of me.
changed my perspective
you know.
of you. The fact that you stayed like the good person and the good boy that you are,
I tried.
once we broke up, it's not like I tested you. It just kind of showed me like you were really dedicated.
Yeah, it was
you
like
know?
meaning like after all
And
this.
I was the same. I wasn't like.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. If you really want to show your true character and what your true intentions were in the relationship, if you still try your best to remain the same person in the relationship while you're coming out of it, then in the future, if that relationship were to be rekindled or you met somebody and you had an even better relationship, at least you were able to grow from it and become better. If you were doing, again, if you happen to do it, it doesn't make you a bad person or anything like that, God forbid. It just goes to show that in my perspective, I saw that there was still a chance. And even if there wasn't a chance, I didn't want to have that relationship bring me down and change my values and change it and allow me to do, God forbid.
It's like you didn't know if we were going to end up together, but you didn't want to know that we never could.
Yeah, I just didn't want to do anything I was going to regret.
Exactly.
That was also my thing. I didn't want to, like, if God forbid I did something, hey, I'm going to would have regretted that. If I wouldn't have done, I could have had a chance with her because I knew for sure it would have changed your perspective of me.
100%. But we hope that you guys enjoyed today's podcast. It was really fun. I really like doing these like dives into the past because like he has a much better memory than me. So he like reiterates all these things and I'm like, oh yeah, like that was cute. You were a good boyfriend, you know? But thank you guys so much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed this podcast. And if you guys are watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. Comment down below what other podcasts you want from us. Like these ideas really, really help us. Like somebody actually gave us an idea of like talking about the beginning stages of a relationship, and that is why we made this one. So maybe your idea can be our next one. So comment down below. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple, please give us ratings. We have over 120 ratings on Spotify right now, which is insane. 5-star ratings. I mean, if it's not 5 stars, don't leave a rating. If it's 5 stars, you can leave a rating.
But leave 5 stars, please.
Yeah, but thank you guys again so much for watching and listening. If you are watching up to this point, you are the real MVP. We love the ones who stay all the way till the end. Comment down below head versus heart. I think that's that's a good thing to comment, because genuinely, like, I feel like that's really what this podcast was all about.
Yeah. I think in the end, you end up combining the two.
Yeah,
you just have to have a good
and that's
balance.
how you have a beautiful harmony for a relationship. But we love you all so much. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, and we cannot wait to see you, speak to you, hear you in our next one.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Finally, love y'all.
Love y'all.